this evening live. We're the show this evening really is about to talk about a few things, and it's to talk about tables, cloth. It's about talk about snooker, and thanks very much for Diane from Hainsworth this morning, and Justin, and also Rob Reed. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Diane, thanks for joining us from Hainsworth. What can I say? Hainsworth cloth is a cloth that that I respect as a cloth, as a snooker cloth. But it's not just a snooker cloth. It's like it's involved in many. How far back Diane in terms of providing snooker cloth? When did it all start?
Well, we've been making snooker cloths since the early 70s. We were predominantly a manufacturer of apparel cloth, as you probably know, the military, but it has akin to a snooker cloth with the fact that we've got that precise nap that we put on our apparel cloths for military. So it just fit quite well. So in the 70s, we took over a business that was failing, and that's how we got into it.
How long was that ago? Was that like a long time ago? Or was that like?
Yeah, that's the very, very early 70s. Prior to that, we had been making cloth, but that was our first link to the snooker element, because then we had access to the market. So we could make the cloth and actually sell it through into the market.
So in terms of Hainsworth and snooker, in terms of cloth, how far have you come? Where are we now?
Well, as you know, the market's been up and down. So over the years, the industry has been hit with all sorts of things thrown at it. But as we like to say, that the industry is really resilient. And, the guys out there, I have to take my hat off to them, even through COVID. Everybody has been working flat out, making the most of a bad deal. But in terms of the fabric, we sort of, as you know, we had a connection with Riley's, but then when that connection ended, we actually ended that connection. We started to go out with the Hainsworth brand on its own because of obviously the history and reputation of the manufacturer. But we decided that the market needed to have something to keep it alive, and the game needed to have something to make it interesting for the future, not just the same thing. So, and also because we're obviously not the WPBS cloth, we've had to kind of walk and run a lot faster than everybody else in terms of innovation. So we could see that there was an element of interest that we wanted to bring into it. And our work in the Far East, when we took the product out to the Far East, what it taught us was that there was a need for managing the moisture and the speed, and then the excitement that brought with it. So we decided that we would develop a cloth specifically for speed, even though the market wasn't actually asking for it. We decided that would give some element of interest and challenge, and really make the game more interesting and increase the footfall for the clubs that actually use that fabric. So it took us about 5 years to develop the match cloth, and then after that we then progressed onto the precision, which is now the fastest cloth in the market. And in order to do that, we had to use the finer fibres and work and find a way of being able to create the cloth so it could be fitted and give some durability. Obviously it's not as durable as the thicker, slower cloth, but enough to get your value for money, but also increase your footfall and your interest of the player. So it was kind of looking at all the stakeholders, the player, the clubs, to try and make sure that everybody could make some money out of it and actually enjoy it and get something from it, some benefit from it.
Well, in many reasons, Diane, and I'm not, guys, I'm not being sort of biased in any ways here, but that's one of the reasons why I favour Hainsworth Matchcloth, because of its cost effectiveness and the fact that it is cost effective, and perhaps it maybe lasts a little bit longer than some of the other cloths. But why is that, Diane? I mean, is the cloth pure wool? Is it? I mean,
Um,
I believe it's 90% wool and
no, this is a myth.
nylon.
It does have a small percentage of nylon, but it's not 10%. If you had a cloth with 10% nylon in, it would not perform. It has 5%, and that's across warp and weft. And what we're talking about here is a very fine fibre that we use in the merino. And we've got this development because we actually use this in our apparel cloth. So the fact that we can buy in bulk this finer fibre, and we have the source that we select from, means that those shorter, finer fibres, we can actually weave them and tease out the fibres to the surface and crop them really short. So you get lots of very, very tiny fibres come to the surface, but then they can all be cropped very short. And it's a myth thinking that if a cloth is finer and thinner, it's cheaper. That's a myth, because in reality, you have to have more warp strings going through the piece. So that means where you probably have, for example, in an inch, maybe 10, you'd need 20, because they're a lot finer. So there's a lot more wool content in there, believe it or not, than it actually appears when you feel it. But it's because it's the finer fibre that we choose, which is only part of the sheep that we can use. So it's a little bit more exclusive. But the fact that we can buy it in bulk because we use it across the business, and the fact that we have other businesses that we manufacture and sell to, helps us to manage costs. So we don't have to be charging those really expensive prices. But then on the other hand as well, we don't spend a huge amount of money to give to associations to pay for tournaments either. So, we do grassroots tournaments, and we support with cloth, or we support with cash, but not at the levels that would go into some higher games. So every bit of money that we save, we can then give a better value of cloth for the market.
It is. Rob, do you have a take on this in terms of cloth and performance and what have you? You can't hear me, can you? Hang on, I'm going to unmute him here. Rob, can you hear me?
Listen, Dave, I know I talk a lot, but you didn't need to mute me.
Do you have a take on this in terms of cloth?
Yeah, well, first of all, I just wanted to say that I've spoken to Diane on a few occasions when I've been over to Hainsworth to pick up cloth, and she's probably as passionate about cloth as what I am about table fitting, if not more so. She's a very unusual species for that market, because over the 33 years of me being fitting, there's not many people that have a passion for the cloth as what Diane has at Hainsworth. And the cloth, that when I use that kind of cloth, I try to give them some feedback when I go to pick up my roll or bits and bats I need. And Diane, she's always there ready to talk to you about anything you've got a problem with, or whether it's been stretching a little bit more than normal, different times of year. And I like to talk to people like that to get the feedback on how this cloth is coming through at the moment.
Yeah, we value that very much, Rob. And actually, you have a really excellent relationship with Jill as well, who's looks after the UK market side for me. But yeah, we really value that too. And our doors are always open. We have so many people who want to go around the mill, and we love that. Absolutely love that.
She actually, I think Diane arranged for Jill to come out and watch me actually do a full recover on one snooker table near where Hainsworth is, just to get an insight onto how tables go together and how the cloth's fitted and how it stretches, and people are quite surprised that I might be quite small, but I am quite stocky. And
What's your knuckles like?
yeah, as you lean back to give the cloth a fair tug at the corner pockets, it does stretch quite a way. You know, anywhere between 4 and 8, 10 inches. Sometimes it can go quite a bit, depending on the time of year. Sorry.
You know, Diane, just touching on your cloth again. Obviously, we got Hainsworth Match Cloth. You know, we got Hainsworth Smart Cloth for clubs and what have you. But in terms of looking for the higher end and the quality,
Mhm.
you know, we're looking at Match Cloth. Is you've come out with the super fine cloth?
No, Superfine is our competition. You know how. I think you need to gen up on some of your information.
Yeah.
No, we've got the Precision. The Precision's been out for about 4 or 5 years now, and it was predominantly made for a humid market where you have to manage the moisture in the cloth to keep the speed. But in reality, everybody took onto it in the UK too. I think it just offers that little bit more challenge. You know, you've got to be good at your game if you play on Precision. It's blooming fast. But that people like that. They love being challenged. You know, that's the whole part of it. But it's a very big community of people too, so they like to work with each other on it. And we like to give the venues an opportunity to say, you know, come to our venue. When you're thinking about where to go, come to our venue. We've got Precision on the table. You know, so if people can make money out of it, I'm absolutely delighted, because the more people can make money out of it and enjoy it, then it sells itself. And there's just me and Jill. You know, we don't put ourselves about much in terms of marketing, but we just let the cloth speak for itself.
Okay. Justin, I'm going to bring you in at this point.
Hello.
Okay. Now, just for some information, some of our viewers who don't know who you are, Justin provides his own hat wire system, table heating, and what have you. Justin, what's your take on the cloth? And
What, Precision in particular, or any cloth?
well, for any cloth.
Well, I think people ask me, why did you put a heating system to a snooker table? And that's probably one of the most asked questions that I get out there. And the best way to describe it is that a snooker table without a heating system is like an air hockey table without air. And the difference a heating system makes to the speed and the run of the table is just absolutely incredible. And when I first come up with it, I mean, I had the same issue as any other player. We had brand new cloth on there, brand new Northern rubbers, and the whole experience when we was testing it was just underwhelming. And you start to think, what else do we have to like sort of spend on this table to get it running the way we expect it to? And well, that's when I started racking my brain and to come up with a system, because nothing else was out on the market. I mean, the only alternative at the time was tubes. And yeah, when I first tested that out, my expectations wasn't that high, but it was a jaw-dropping experience when I did first test it out. So it's probably one of the best things that I've ever come across, even if I do say so myself.
Well, obviously, you know, guys, obviously cloth is going to respond to heat. Okay. So, I mean, how important is heat to cloth? You know, I'm going to go back to you, Diane, about in terms of heat and cloth and what have you.
I think obviously the reason it makes it faster is it takes the moisture out. And the moisture actually, because wool absorbs 33% of its own weight in moisture. You'll get moisture in your house, you'll get moisture in a club, particularly if you turn the central heating off, or the air conditioning. And that moisture then bulks the cloth up and the fibres, and it's bound to slow the cloth down. But if you can take the heat out, Usually, brushing and ironing on cloths like Precision and Match is okay, because obviously we manufacture it to manage the moisture. But if you've got other cloths in there, then it really does improve. The only thing I would say is heat over time will damage the fibres if it's not controlled. And I'm presuming that, you know, Justin's system is well controlled and the heat is at the right temperature. Because I've seen some clubs that put it on too high and then the fibres get brittle and break away. But, you know, that's not the fault of the heater. That's just the way that people use them sometimes. So providing they're used, you know, properly, then they should really make the table very fast.
Well, yes, the heating is thermostatically controlled, and
Good. Yeah.
I would never I mean, people like to have them on 24/7, but I don't think I'd ever recommend anyone to have them on 24/7, because it's a cost factor at the end of the day, because a heater costs money to run, and I mean, my USP on the heating system is the fact that it takes an hour and a half to warm up the table, get it to temperature. You don't need to put it on 4 or 5 hours beforehand. It's very adequate to have it on a schedule or a timer or a smart plug. I got yours, by the way, Rob, just come through the post today.
What's that?
The smart plug.
All right, yeah, very good, excellent. Yeah, it's coming to fit mine. I've just had a snooker room built at home, Dave, and my table's at the French polishers at the moment, and when it goes in, I want the heating system in before, because I'm a great believer in constant heat rather than turning it on and off, because the expansion and contraction of wood is massive and it unlevels the table. So if the heating's been on at 30 degrees for 12 hours and then it goes off overnight, the next day, if you don't plug the heating back in, the table will play totally different, not just slower, but it may run off slightly. It's a big factor, is the heating. What a lot of people don't realize is the slate is a very, very cold substance, and it's colder than your windows. So if there's any moisture in your room at all, whether it's condensation or whether it's cold, it will go to your slates first before your windows, and therefore where the wool cloth is sat on top of the slate, it zaps that moisture up with like a sponge, and within minutes it slows it down. You don't get the slide, you get a square bounce, and the reaction on the balls even pick that up as well. So the balls then tend to get cold, and the moisture on the balls will pick the chalk up, and then you start getting kicks and big bounces, and there's all sorts of stuff.
There's so many factors that come together.
Yeah. So when I have my heating system fitted, I've spoken already about the hot wires, and I think I'm going to probably have mine on constant heat all the time. I don't think I'll ever turn it off. But some of the pros leave theirs on all the time because they want to be able to play on the same table, or try and make it exactly the same as what it would be when they're playing in a competition. You know, trying to make it exactly the same. And if your table's getting hot or getting cold and getting hot and getting cold, then they're getting different reactions, and they don't want that. They want every advantage possible, especially the top boys, and that's why they have the tables recovered more often as well, so that the sheen of the cloth is there all the time.
Can I just say about rubbers? Sorry, Rob.
Yeah.
With this temperature thing as well, if you're heating tables up and then turning them off all the time, your rubbers, what happens is the rubber, it holds the heat longer than the rest of the table, and then it does affect the bounce. So we've had some comments about rubber, and to be fair, the more heat you put in there for a short burst of time, the worse sometimes it can get. So it does affect the bounce on the rubber as well by keeping the heat.
To be fair, I mean, the heating system doesn't really get that close to the rubbers because you're restricted by the frame.
It's just the overall warmth of it. If you put it on too high initially, if it's not, like you say, thermostated, you know, some people have that thing where they've got to give it a burst of heat, it tends to stay longer in the rubbers.
It doesn't really work like that. Sorry, it's more of a surface temperature. I mean, you're not blasting the table with a high temperature. It's the way the system works is it covers 90% of the surface, and the operating temperature doesn't get higher than 55, 60 degrees.
Yeah.
So you're only like sort of radiating the slate. You're not like sort of blasting it with high temperatures.
No. But there's some systems out there that are not obviously as controlled as yours. I've seen some in the Far East that is not working like
I think I was Diana. I think I was told a few years ago that one of the Chinese systems from the Star tables had caught fire, and the table caught on fire, and it was one of the top pros. I won't mention the name, but it was one of the top pros, and they had to have a brand new table fitted because the heating system had got that hot. It's caught fire to the tables, but Justine's system is fantastic because especially if you leave it on constantly. I've spoke to him and he was saying, did you say about 34, 35, Justine?
Yeah, about that, 34, 35, yeah.
I might, you know what I'm like. I might tinker with it when you fitted mine because I might just bring it down a little bit or take it up a little bit, depending on how the table reacts. And I'm in a great situation where I've played the game to a pretty decent standard as well. And well, so some people say, and I've been fitting tables ever since. I've been fitting tables ever since I left school. So I'm in a great situation, but I understand the fitting point of view, and I also understand the playing point of view. So when you get different reactions and the players on the TV are saying, oh, the ball's responding totally different to how it normally does, it's not just the heat and it's not just the cloth, it's actually the atmosphere as well. And you've got to strike a happy medium and have temperature gauges. And also, I think they've started putting in now humidity testers as well to see how much humidity is there, so they can try and cancel as much of it out as possible.
Well, it's like Rob is totally correct in what he's saying. It's not just it's the atmospherics. All these factors come together, and I think it's the same with a snooker table. I mean, if you sort of break it down, Riley or BC or Star, the only thing that they make is the wood. It's the frame. Everything comes together to make it a high quality product. You got the cloth from Hainsworth, you got Northern Rubbers from Hainsworth, you got Aramith balls, you got the slate. I mean, and they all play their part in making a good running table.
Can I just comment on this from David Delboy Church? I absolutely agree. The right people fitting the tables is totally essential. Getting that right fit on the table, having people know what they're talking about, know what they're doing, and their experience is totally essential. Totally agree.
Oh, I totally agree with that as well.
Yeah, what they find is that when you get a batch of cloth, every roll of cloth is fractionally different and it fits fractionally different. So a fitter, when he comes to fit the cloths, I might have 4, 5 or 6 cloths off one roll to fit in one club. As soon as you start fitting the first one, you know how much it's going to be stretching in the right places, and you know how far to go with it, when to tack it down. And sometimes you can go to places where I don't know whether they've done it themselves, and you can push on the cloth and actually pick it up because it's so slack, and that's not giving the best value for money from that cloth, because you're not getting the speed, you're not getting the response because the cloth isn't tight enough.
I think the other thing, guys, that we need to think about here is things like conditions and venues and atmosphere. You know, there's that extent, and I think what is your perspective on this in terms of, you know, different types of venues? You know, we've had so many occasions where we've had professionals complain about conditions, cloth, and what have you. And why is that? Why is that, Rob? Why do they complain? Is it because of atmospheric conditions and weather? Or
Sorry, Dave. Just say that again. You went blank for a second.
Yeah, no. Why do players complain about venues and conditions in terms of table conditions? Why is that?
Yeah, well, it's to cut a long story short, it's 99.9% moisture, and if you're playing in buildings where outside is cold and you've got drafts coming in, or you've even got air conditioning coming in hot buildings, it's altering the surface, it's altering the play, it's altering the atmosphere. The balls are picking up on the moisture, which are collecting chalk, or you're getting big bounces from the cushions, as Diane mentioned earlier. It does affect the rubbers. It's not the heating system what's coming up. It can be the heating what's coming down. It can be the heating what's coming in. It can be the cold air what's coming in, and it's all about doing that. I've just noticed someone's mentioned in the 80s dehumidifiers. Yeah, this dehumidifiers are great for taking the moisture out, but the atmosphere is a totally different thing, and they've got to get dehumidifiers take moisture out, but they don't alter the atmosphere, and that's a big problem at the moment, especially when I think the Tempodrome in Germany, they have a problem there where it kicks nearly every other shot, and this has nothing to do with the cloth or the heating of the table or anything like that. This is the atmosphere, and until we start getting enough air conditioning in there and dehumidifying to get that moisture correct, to get the atmosphere correct, then they'll always play like this, these tables. I'm also picking up on somebody who else. What have they said here? One of them said about the Hayes. Somebody mentioned, Dan will totally agree here. Somebody mentioned earlier on about can you make a fast cloth what's going to last over 12 months? And people don't realize that the faster the cloth is, the thinner it's got to be. That's just how it is. There's nothing else. And I've spoken to Diane before. I'm a big fan of the Hainsworth match cloth, and the reason why is because it's got quite a bit of durability and a lot of speed. When you go to the position, then you're talking speed, just speed. You're taking that durability away, which people have got to understand. If you want,
we never designed it to last. To be fair, we designed it to be the ultimate speed.
Absolutely, and if you go then down to the smart cloth, that's just durability cloth. It's a very good wearing cloth, but you're not going to get the speed out of it. So you will get some speed, but you won't get the speed out of it what you will do with the other two cloths. And a lot of people mention, oh, I want a fast, durable cloth. It's just impossible.
Well, don't worry, we're working on it. We never stop innovating. It takes about 5 or 10 years to do it, but we'll get there.
I really do hope you never come up with one, because you're taking business away from me.
No, you don't want to last too long.
It'll get dirty, and we'll find some other message. But yeah, we do know that.
I've got.
I think what a lot of the pros, when people say the cloth's gone, I need a new cloth on there now, it's not actually worn out for the pros. What's happened is the sheen what comes on the cloth is absolutely mint when it goes on, and you get such a good response and slide. But the more you play on it, the more that sheen starts to diminish, and that's what the pros don't like. Once the sheen's gone or starts to go, they don't quite get the response out of the cloth as what they would normally do. It's not worn out, it's just the sheen starting to go. So therefore the big boys then want a new cloth on. Could be a few weeks, they'll have a new cloth on, so the response is there again. They might be going into a big tournament where they want the response because that's how it's going to be in that tournament. So it's not actually worn out, it's just the sheen started to go. And if everything lasts forever, then obviously I wouldn't be employed by anybody.
In China, they actually take it off after 3 months anyway, irrespective
Right.
of whether it's worn out or not, just for that, purely for that reason. And that's why it's
Yeah.
one of the best markets for us, to be fair.
Your biggest, Diana, your biggest suppliers to China in that respect is your
Yeah, by far. But that's because that's where the game is. The interest is. It's all Chinese. But then Middle East, we do quite well in the Middle East as well. I think it's just because the cloth travels a bit better in terms of the moisture and things.
Yeah,
There is a few more people what live in China though as well, Dave.
Yeah, a few more.
yes, obviously there is. I think the reflection on professional snooker and snooker at a high standard from China has been very, very prominent in the last 4 or 5 years. Had some very, very great snooker players come through from China.
Mhm.
I think that the Chinese are very, very interested in cloth. They're
Mhm.
very interested in tables. They're very interested in performance. And they're everything else that goes with it.
Mhm.
And I think, in terms of cloth, Diane, just getting back to your cloth again, I think, and there's lots of different levels here we're looking at, and we're looking at in terms of level of producing cloth for clubs and cloth for professionals, in terms of providing cloth for, say, maybe my pro-ams, the guys that turn up for my pro-am snooker events expect to play on match cloth,
Mhm.
match cloth and covering tables. And we'll get on to you this, Rob. We'll get on to you about this very, very shortly. But the thing is, they expect a lot more. So how much does it take? Diane. I mean, in terms of providing cloth and quality, does Ainsworth provide everything that it takes?
In terms of providing quality and cloth, what you mean, value for money?
Yes.
Yeah, well, it's like,
I think that's the case. I think. I mean, my personal view is Ainsworth is a product that provides quality and
it's choice. It's choice.
cost effectiveness.
Your cat tail keeps getting in front of the screen.
Yeah.
You're getting upstaged there.
Yeah.
I think it's choice. And if you're going to a venue, you might want to grade the choice that you offer. So you might want to have like super duper fastest cloth for the most aspiring players, but then you might want to have tables in that club that are good for anybody to play on that are not used to playing. I think it's choice that we want to give, and you can spend what you want, really, and it's still value for money. It depends how you promote it, and we really do push clubs to promote the benefits because it gets more people through the door if you can talk about something interesting. I mean, who wants to just go and just knock balls around? It's got to be interesting. It's got to be something that you absolutely want to do every week. So it just gives choice. And you can move it around. You can have as many of whatever style you want.
Rob, how far can we go with a cloth? I mean, can we, listen, you've been a table fitter for a very, very long time. You have a very good reputation.
Can you tell?
Which is, by the way, it's the reason why you're on here. It's got nothing to do with your looks.
Cheers, mate. Love you.
The thing is, you've got a great reputation and you're a very good table fitter and you fit at many, many, many tables and many of my clubs and my competitions. But the thing is, what does it take, Rob? What does it take to make a bad table look good? How can you make a bad table look good? What can you do to a club table to make it look good? What can you do?
Well, to make it look good and to make it play good are two different things, Dave, as you'll probably well know. From a fitting point of view, we can start from scratch by taking the cushions off and reblocking. There's something called a block on the cushion, what is glued and screwed to to the wood cushions, not the steel blocks, the wood cushions, and then the rubber is then glued to this. If these are not sound, if they're worn or they've been smashed with a hammer over the years for a long number of years, and they start to come loose, that will affect the bounce, and then obviously that will slow your table down as well, because the ball's hitting the cushion and dying. You need the cushions to bounce as well as run well on the bed, and a lot of people don't realise that. So I can go into a club and say, oh, you need re-rubbering, you need recovering, you may need new blocks. And if they say to me, well, how much extra is that going to cost for the reblocking? Well, I'll say, well, it's not about how much extra it's going to cost, is do you want this table to play well? Because when I take them rubbers off, that is the ideal time to have it reblocked and make them cushions bounce correctly. So it's just a knock-on effect. If you don't have it all done, then there'll be something what will slow your table down. I have just mentioned somebody's watching us, Dave, called Dion Salt. He's from over Lancashire way near Stockport, and he's a very good table fitter as well. He's just commented, quicker the cloths wear out, the better, Rob, for us. So it gives more business. But I try and advise from a playing point of view as well, and that's why I've got the best of both worlds. And for me to be able to explain that to customers, that if you don't have this done, that's not going to bounce, it's not going to run well, so therefore you won't get the response. So therefore you're not going to invite more players to come into your clubs and play snooker on really good tables. And that's what the clubs want. They want more and more people to come in, but you've got to pay that extra bit to get your table into them conditions.
Yeah.
What about,
Invest.
well, what about talking, I'm going to touch on this, but what about recovering cloths? I mean, if, taking off a match cloth or a precision cloth and putting it on again.
Well,
Is this something that
yeah.
should continue? Is this a big thing? Listen, I'm not in favour of this.
Yeah, well, if Diane can just block her ears for a second, because we're going to swear and say Straka number 10 as well. What you've got is you've got a championship cloth in Straka number 10. You've got Hainsworth match cloths and Hainsworth precision cloths. Now then, when a player's had these cloths on their tables for, let's say, for 2 or 3 months, and you can see a bit of wear around the black spot, which you normally will do from professionals. When it then goes onto a club table or somebody else's table next door, there is give. These wool cloths do give, so it re-stretches, it goes further, and because you're re-stretching it, therefore the picks of the cloth are opening up even more. So therefore the ball's got less cloth to run on, so therefore it's wearing out quicker, or it's running faster, but it is wearing out quicker, and that's what happens, unfortunately. It's common sense, really, when you think about it, and it's explained to you properly from a table fitter or a player, and that's why I'm explaining it this way, from a playing and a fitting point of view.
Do I'm going to touch on something else. I'm going to swing over to Justin here on this one. Okay. See, I kind of feel like he's been left out of it.
Well, I'm enjoying listening.
But the thing is, Justin, how important is heat on a cloth? And how important is heat on a new cloth and on a recovered cloth?
Well, is one of the main things that gets mentioned is moisture. I mean, although that is one of the most important factors in snooker, the other thing that heat does, it reduces the friction of the roll. Without being a scientist myself, but that's what happens, and that's how I use the analogy of like having an air hockey table without air. Something happens. I'm not qualified enough to explain what happens, but it just completely transforms the table. In terms of a new cloth, I mean, you're just going to get the best out of it. I mean, that's what the heating's there for, is just to get the best out of what's there. It's like putting a turbo onto a car, if you like. I mean, I've had players before, professional players. I've gone there, stuck a heating system on a Saturday. He had his table fitter booked in for a Tuesday, and he ended up cancelling his table fitter, saying he'd get an extra 2 months out of the cloth. So that is, well, that's pretty nice, and that nice little feedbacks that I get now and again.
Mm.
But yeah, it's the main reason for a heating system is just to get extra speed out of the table.
Whether I'm right or wrong, Justin and Dave and Diana, I don't know, but I was always told that when you was at school in chemistry, we all used to have a little Bunsen burner, what we used to try and burn the school window curtains with
Showing
to
your age
set the
now.
fire alarms off. Well, I am. Well, what happens is if you set your Bunsen burner underneath a test tube with a chemical in there, the molecules change. If the molecules start changing on that particular substance, that's what's happening with a snooker table. The hotter you get it, the more it's going to change, and that's why I'm a firm believer of having the table warm but not hot. And because things happen when it gets too hot. Things happen what you don't expect, and I don't mean the curtains catching fire. I mean just the table. The table won't catch fire, obviously, but it's just the rubbers, the cloth, the cushion, the steel, the slate, everything changes when you heat things up. So you just don't know how it's going to play if you get it too hot.
Yeah. Well, I mean, table heating is nothing new in billiards in general. I mean, although it's relatively new, I mean, in snooker, I mean, probably 10, 13 years now, billiard tables have been heated for decades. If you look at free cushion carom in Europe, I mean, I was brought up in Holland, and from a very young age, the age of 4, I was brought up playing carom. I never seen a snooker table until I was 11. And one of the things is as a kid, I wanted to get on that heated table because it's a different world. And you switch one of them tables off, even though they got like a super sleek Simonis cloth, they're still useless. As soon as the heating's switched off, even on the thin Simonis, it doesn't react. And it doesn't react until you switch the heating on.
Dave, just sorry to interrupt, Justin, but Amanda Wells Lomas has made a good point there about she's actually said she's a woman. I think I know with a name like Amanda, otherwise I'd be worrying. But she's made a good point there that she's a player in the clubs and they don't have these extra heating systems, whether they can't afford them or whether they can't afford the running costs or whatever it is. I know some clubs work on a week-to-week basis. And they're saying how to get the club's table playing better. What I would say is, if you want it to play quick, definitely go with the Hainsworth match rather than the 100% Strachan wool cloth, because you are going to get a faster table that way. If you have the Strachan 6811 or even the number 10 on there, it will play quick for a period of time, but it will slow up quite considerably, especially when the room gets cold at night. And the next few days, people are trying to iron the tables like mad, trying to get them to run. But this is just doing damage to the finish of the cloth. So I'd definitely go with the Hainsworth match in a club if they want it to run a bit quicker, not just for the speed, but for the cost. I mean, it's virtually very, very similar to the price of 6811 Tournament, much cheaper than number 10 by a few £100, to be fair. So in clubs, definitely Hainsworth match on the beds, and they'll find that that's going to play a lot quicker.
Getting some ideas here, Diane. Your Hainsworth are getting some up forward here. But, I have said that.
Sorry, I was just going to say, I've mentioned to you before, Dave, but we're hugely respectful of the WSP cloth. I mean, obviously, it's the world's WPBSA cloth. But what I would say is that the more we keep these high-value cloths in the game, in the market, the better the game will live on. So if you prefer WSP cloth, that's fine, as long as we're keeping good value and good quality in the market, and we're not going to devalue the game or anything through it. And also, professionals obviously have to play on a cloth that they're going to play in a tournament with. So we understand, you know, they've got to play on what they're going to, the condition they're going to play in a tournament. So that's absolutely fine too. But I do know that some professionals do actually use our cloth.
Yeah, they do.
It's just, you know, how confident you are at moving from one table to another, one cloth to another when you come under a competition scenario, and that's absolutely fine. You know, with total respect for WSP and what they do.
I'll tell you what, we've talked about cloths and we've talked about tickets, but what about tables? You know, guys, we were supposed to have a table manufacturer on this evening, but they pulled out the last minute. I'm not going to mention who it is, but it's that, you know, star tables have been predominant in the world of snooker, but are they the best? Are they the best? Do we need to make a change? And if we did make a change, who would we go to? You know, we'll start with you, Rob.
I thought you might do, Dave. I get a lot of feedback on tables, and from a fitting point of view, I know which are the best tables to fit on. And what a lot of people say to me is they feel at home when they're playing on a Riley Aristocrat or a BCE. They feel so much at home. And I don't. It's a lot of things coming together again. I don't think the wood on a star table is as solid as the BCE and the Riley tables, and therefore the wood contributes to everything what holds the slates in place, and then the cushions are bolted then to the slates. I mean, even going back to the slates. Some of the old tables I go in to fit in clubs are over 120, 140 years old, and they're still going very, very strong. The Welsh slate, what they used to make, was absolutely immense. Very rare did you get a bad set of Welsh slates. I tend to hear and find these days that when you get a batch of new tables, you're looking for the best level table, so then they can then put them two on the TV tables, and the rest go in the qualifying tables. I've spoken to a couple of people about this, and that's normally the case. It shouldn't be, but that's what it is. The slates are now, I'm not 100% certain, but I believe the slates are now coming from Brazil, which is, it's bizarre how we're having to ship slates now, what we used to be made in Wales. Then we went to Italy, which I still think Riley's are using Italian slate. I don't
know, actually. I think they might have closed down.
And they come through different thicknesses as well, because the star tables come through 50 mil thick, which is quite a heavy chunk.
It's a very heavy slate, is it not, Rob?
Yeah, between 180 and 200 kgs per slab, and there's 5 slabs a slate on that table. The Riley Aristocrat tables come with 45 mil slate, 5 mil thinner. The old Welsh slate came how it came. Some of them came 25 mil thick, some of them came 60 mil thick. The tolerance was massive, but it all depended on which manufacturer made that slate at the time and what pieces of slab of slate they could find to quarry and make for that table back in the day, when there was no machinery to make these tables with. It was all done by hand.
Justin, these slates, are they harder to heat?
They no, I mean it's pretty straightforward and easy to heat any slate. I mean, one thing I will say is a lot of places that I go into are freezing. And the slate, like anything else, holds a certain moisture content. So, if a table takes about an hour and a half to warm up, the first couple of times, or the first week, or the first week and a half, it might take 2 hours or 3 hours because of the moisture content. Over time, the moisture content will drop, and and the table will heat up quicker with time. Plus, the heat will spread over the frame as well. So it's slate. It's like Rob said in the previous conversation. It's like a sponge. It's just
Dave,
sucks up water.
what Justin's invented, Dave, isn't just for Star or Riley Aristocrat tables. I don't know if you're aware, but underneath tables, where the tables are held together, there's certain bits of wood, like tongue and grooved or doweled, and they could be under most modern tables now. You've 6 sections underneath. And that's what Justin goes and puts his 6 sections of pads underneath the Stars and the Riley Aristocrats. But some of the old tables can have 9 sections, 12 sections.
Yeah.
Justin can actually make his heaters to fit them. He will put 12 sections of heaters under there rather than 6. And that's a good thing about his heating system. But a lot of people don't realise that when you look underneath the table, there's different sections, different sizes. The frames are slightly different size from back in the day. They're a bit longer. Whereas the modern ones now are all cut, basically. The Star tables are all cut to a template, and most parts fit each other.
Yeah, which makes my job easy. But when it comes onto like old Burrows and Watts and old Thurstons and Farnham and Hillmans, and I think I've got about 5-6 different frames in my head. But no, it's. I mean, I got to completely agree with Rob in what he said earlier. I mean, it's like the tables, the quality of the tables are a lot better 30, 40 years ago than what they are now. It's inevitable because it's people want to save money. They're cutting costs, and they're saving it in certain areas, which didn't happen back then. And I think if you look on eBay nowadays, you can get a great table for less than 500 quid. And
well, I've just noticed there, John Wilson, a very good friend of mine. He's a good friend of Sean Murphy's as well. Who's a very good friend of mine. He's put down, bring back the BCE. The BCE was a great table.
BCE, best table ever.
What you get with the BCE is you get such a solid frame. The legs are quite chunky and heavy. There's no movement in the frame whatsoever, where you get a little bit of movement in the Star tables. But Riley's tweaked it a little bit when they brought out the Riley Aristocrat, and that's why I always say Riley Aristocrat is just that little bit better than the BCE. From a fitting point of view, the cushions on a BCE have got rectangular washers, this like square rectangular washers, and it's a bit of a nightmare to get them back in place. Well, it just takes longer to get them back in place, whereas with the Riley Aristocrat, the round washers, round holes, boom, straight in, and away you go. And that's why when I have my room my room's nearly ready to go. My frame is at the French Polishers, and the table I'm having in is a Riley Aristocrat.
80s frame.
What can we listen? I'm going to touch on this. You know, what can we do to an old table? What can we transform an old table, an old club table, into a really great competition table for my events, my top Pro-Am events? Can we
Yes, you can.
Tell us what we need to do, Rob, and Justin will.
Absolutely, Dave.
What do.
Yeah, what you've got, first of all, if you can afford the heating system, I mean, it's not overly expensive, to be fair, but if you can go with the heating system, that will give you another 30, 40, maybe 50% of better play on the table straight away. If you can also then, if you want steel blocks fitting rather than wooden cushions, I can do that. And well, most fitters can do that, but the problem is with the modern steel blocks, they're made for 6 holes down the side of the table on each cushion. And as a lot of people will be aware, that down the side of the table on old tables, pre-70s, I would say pre-60s, pre-70s, there's only 5 bolts in each cushion. So the steels would need re-drilling. It's a bit of a job to do, but it can be done. And once them steels are fitted, the heating system's fitted, you've got a new cloth on there, it'll play like a dream.
Well, what are we talking about here? Are we talking about new rubbers on the cushions? Are we talking about cloth, rubbers, northern rubbers, maybe?
We're talking.
Conditions reset. What?
We were talking about whether you had wood cushions or steel block cushions, and if you wanted to transform it by taking your wood cushions off and putting steel block cushions on there, that would transform your bounce straight away, especially if you have the heating system on there as well. And because the new steel block cushions come with new rubbers, new pockets. Once you have your, I'll plug Diane again, Hainsworth match. On
Hainsworth match.
Oh no, he's gone.
Where's it gone?
It's all right. It's probably not a bad thing. He was getting on my nerves. He's so much. He's got
Somebody's pulled the plug on him.
Listen, he's got so much information.
Yeah.
Give me a headache, But no, I'm sure he'll be back on in a second. He'll join us in a second. By the way, guys, very shortly, just before we wrap this up, we're going to be joined by Jonas from Tom Chalk, special guest this evening, who's going to join us on the end there. Jonas, he's sitting in the backstage there. I haven't forgotten about you. We're going to bring you in, but it's sort of towards the end. We're just going to wait for Rob to join us here. He's not very good on this stuff, his I don't know, his visual media stuff is deplorable. It's terrible.
Well, you can't be an expert in everything, can you?
Here he is.
He's coming back on. Here he is. He's back on.
Yeah.
To you there. Were you? Did you need a break or something?
Don't know. I live in a rural area, Dave, and I don't think I paid my internet bill.
It's great. Well, look, guys, we'll have a good insight here. We'll have a fantastic insight into everything that's going on. It's not often we have this type of thing. Where we talk about tables, we talk about cloth, and we talk about heating systems. And, I hope that this sort of information we've given out here today has been acknowledged, and a lot of people are going to listen to it, But, Rob, reputation precedes you, great table fitter, and, I wouldn't recommend anybody else. I think, up and down the country, I run events all over the country, and I think that if I was going to come to someone, I'd come to you, Rob. In terms of Justin, it goes without saying. In terms of cloth, Diane, for me, Hainsworth match cloth is the cloth to use in any event, whatever way you look at it. But I think, we've touched on a lot of subjects this evening, guys, and we've touched on performance and cloth and tables and what have you. And at the end of it all, where are we? Where are we with this? I mean, what is the best? I mean, even the professionals complain about the cloth when they go to Milton Keynes, depending on the weather, or
don't start me off.
So, I mean, we've got things, we could touch on things like atmosphere and conditions and the venue and what have you. But, why do players, like, for example, Rob, this is for all three of you, actually. Why do some of the top players, why do they complain about the cloths and conditions? Is it because of humidity conditions? Or maybe they're not getting things right. Why is this? Why?
Majority of the time, it's the humidity and the conditions of the arena. Sorry, just getting a bit of echo back on it.
A bit of an echo, and I think, Rob, it's actually your fault because you went off and came back on again. Have you got a radio on the background? Because you've got this headphone set on. You're some kind of famous DJ or something.
I had to put this on because I was watching the snooker and I was just seeing that Selby were going way ahead.
Well, he's boring. He's very, very boring.
He might be boring, but he earns a lot of money.
Yeah, that doesn't have a reflection on his personality. But
he's a nice lad.
Echo here. Somebody's listening to a radio. Who's got the radio? Is it you? Switch.
No.
No.
Rob, it's you. It's got to be you.
No.
Anyway, it doesn't really matter. I'll tell you what, guys. Listen, we've covered a lot on the hour we've been on. Okay, I'm going to let you go. Okay,
Okay.
I'm going to let you go because we've had a lot of insight. And Diane, thanks very much for coming on.
No, it's a pleasure. Thanks for inviting me.
Justin,
Yeah, thank you.
really appreciate coming on. Rob, I'm going to be
Cheers, mate.
I'm going to be speaking to you a lot in the coming months. And Justin,
I've just had one question, Dave, from Stephen Clarence about steel cushions.
Yep.
Give a faster bounce over wood. Steel cushions give a more Rolls Royce of a bounce rather than a Ford Fiesta. Basically.
I have to echo what Rob's saying.
That's quite an amplified response. You know, somebody's got their bloody radio on somewhere, you know, it's just killed the whole thing. And Rob, I still think it's you, because the only time I've had this problem is while you've been on.
Cheers,
You know?
Dave. Thanks very much.
Anyway, Diane, thanks very much for coming on.
Thank you.
I'm going to have a chat with you next week about some other stuff. Okay?
Okay.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Okay.
As I say, you know, Hainsworth cloth is a personal favourite of mine. Hainsworth matchcloth, for many reasons, and for the most reason, cost effectiveness really of the cloth and durability.
Good.
You know, where it has whatever it has, it does the job, and that's it. You know, so it's an absolute pleasure to have you on, Diane, and hopefully we'll speak again soon.
Okay.
Thank you
So I
very much.
just cross myself off here.
No, I'm going to switch you off because I'm.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. You're the host. You can
Yeah.
get rid of me. You can axe me then.
Okay. Okay, I'm going to bring Jonas in. Just want to come in. All right, guys. Jonas! Can you hear me?
Hello from the cold Finland. How are you guys?
Okay. These guys are way ahead of us in terms of time.
I know the reason why Rob has two screens on my phone, so that's the reason. Maybe he logs out and logs back in, so the voice is better.
Right, Rob, can you hear that?
All right.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, listen, Jonas, he's no loss. He gets all my He's
Good
giving me
information. A lot of
a-
new information for me
Well,
too. Professional.
Justin doesn't get on my nerves, and I've only just brought you in, you know? So anyway, look, listen, we're going to talk about chalk, okay?
All right.
So I want you to tell us, talk to us about Tom Chalk, okay?
Yeah, all right.
Let's start from the beginning. When did it start?
Yeah.
And why is it so good? And where are we with it?
Yeah, we started when the year 2016 began. We started to develop it because our main engineer and founder, Tony, he's like an inventor. So he said that there's a problem in the sport that those kicks have to go out, and he started to develop it. And after 1.5 years, he found the solution, and then we started to bring it on the market in the late 2017. So it's pretty good product, you know, and it was a long hard work what he did to develop it for 1.5 years, and it came out pretty good.
And you know, it's not just the choice of many club players, but it's also the choice of many professionals.
Yeah, we are proud and proud for our product, and like Diane said, also we are innovating all the time. So we just want to get better and better every day.
Mm-hmm. Is there any? I mean, look, listen. I bought a load of Tom Chalk a couple of years ago when it was the initial chalk. The initial.
Sing on when
Rob is back.
came back.
Rob, can you hear us?
Yeah, and the
I'm
sound
just
is
listening now.
terrible.
You know,
I
I
can't
think.
hear you.
I think
Yeah, but still, it's there. There's two screens, and
There's
I
no
can't hear
echo.
what they ask.
can you?
I have.
Well, everybody can hear you anyway, Jonas. That's the most
Right.
important thing, and that's the most important reason why you're on here and talk
Right.
about what you're doing. But the thing is, the chalk is quite revolutionary. He's away again. but that's okay. That's all right.
Yeah.
It's on my nerves anyway. But the thing is that the chalk is great because it doesn't leave residue on the table.
Yeah,
And
yeah, it's very clean.
that was the initial thing. But you've come up with some different chalks. There's like the initial chalk. Talk to us, Jonas, about the other types of chalk that you have.
So the 1.0, what for example Mark Williams still uses, is most grittier. So there's the earlier versions are more grittier than the new ones, and then we changed the formula to maybe not so gritty but get more grip, because there was some miscue problems in the early stages. There still is, somebody says, but mostly it's about the cueing, and the tip is also a very important part. So different chalks works different ways with different tips. So but we're always innovating new things, and next version is going to be even better. So
how do you get the grips with this, Jonas? I mean, how do you get the grips with all this stuff? I mean, how do you determine what is enough to not leave enough, a mess on the table, and what is the best chalk and that? I mean, how did you get to where you are?
it's just it's how did we get there? What
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear. Can you repeat?
Yeah, I mean, how did you discover? I mean, obviously, it was was it a condition of not leaving a chalk residue on the table,
No,
not
the
leaving
first
any
thing
chalk
was
residue.
we
on the table?
wanted to make a chalk that there is no kick anymore. So we wanted to get rid of the kicks. So that's how we started. Then we started the next one was that there is no residue. So that's the main thing. So all the cloth you see TV matches played with our chalk, there is nothing on the table.
Mm-hmm. Well, there's nothing worse than leaving a mess on the table. And
Yeah,
guys,
it looks horrible now, but early days nobody even think about it. But now when you see a player using other chalk on the table, it looks like a mess,
Rob, what's your take on this?
Yeah, I at first I wasn't a lover of the Teom chalk, as Jonas just said. The miscues came into it, but what I do like about Teom and Jonas is the fact that they've gone away and they've kept working on it, and they've come up with another one. Then they've come up with another one, and I believe the soft one, what's out now, is very, very good.
Yeah.
The only problem I have with it in the UK is, Jonas, I think we've spoken on Twitter on one occasion, and what the European countries don't realise that us British are quite tight, and when it comes to paying for things, we struggle at putting 20 pence in a club meter to get 20 minutes of snooker for 20 pence. And so when it comes from a block of chalk at 40, 50 pence to maybe 12, 30, 40, 15 pounds, then people don't appreciate that. So I think the market needs to go down the route of that. This chalk is that good. You need to buy this chalk to make the tables look better, play better. The balls won't pick it up as much because it's so much finer. And I think that's the route next for Teom to go down.
Yeah, and also people should realize that our chalk lasts so much longer than any other chalk. So if you buy a piece, you can go 1 year. If you're a club player, you can go 1 year with the same block. So it's a cost of pack of cigarettes in London. So
yeah, I mean the only problem with that, Jonas, is a couple of my mates will like to have a few drinks at night when they've had a game of snooker, decide to leave the chalk in the club where they've been playing and won't be going back for 6 months. So I think the selling point to them would be that this chalk is that good that you need to buy it. You forget about the other stuff now. You need to buy it. I've not used Teom as yet. I'm going to try it out when my table gets installed. But I'm definitely not using the triangle at the moment. It just leaves too much of a mess. So I will definitely try the Teom as soon as I get my table up and running.
Justin, what's your take on the Teom chalk?
I haven't used it yet. I haven't had time to chalk my cue this year.
Terrible silver player.
Sorry.
Mhm.
No, but you know the thing is, what is your feedback?
Well, it's obviously, as with everything coming into everything new coming into sport, it's great to see new innovations and people continually improving on what they've already brought to market. I haven't personally used it yet. I mean, I still use the old stuff when I do play. But yeah, there's always going to be room for new stuff, and I mean, it's like my system as well. I'm continually improving it. I improved it again the other day, and you can't rest on your laurels.
Mhm.
Yeah, and you talked about the big bounces earlier. Many pros say that all the big bounces go off when they use our chalk. So it don't. I don't know. Maybe you know better how table fitters and Rob. Maybe you know better, but they say that there's no big bounces if you use our chalk. What?
Yeah, I'll disagree slightly.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think it's eradicated 100% of kicks, but it
Yeah.
has got rid of probably 80, maybe 90% of the kicks what you would get from
Yeah.
chalk. As far as big bouncers goes, that is chalk. It's a proven fact. If you load the nose of the cloth up on the rubber with chalk, no matter which chalk it is, and you roll a ball down a ramp
Yeah.
at the same speed, you get a big bounce.
Yeah.
And then we're going back to the moisture content again. The only way the chalk can stick to the cloth is if the atmosphere has got the moisture in there
Yeah.
for the
Got it.
cloth to soak it up, so the chalk then sticks to it.
Good points there, guys. You know,
But with Dave, with the chalk being so fine from Teom, there's so much less chance of it hitting the chalk because it's so much finer.
Yeah.
Whereas the other chalk, it was visible. You can see it on the nose of the rubber.
Yep.
So there's much bigger chance of getting a kick or a big bounce. Massive. I don't think it's got rid of the big bounces, but I do think it has not eradicated. Sorry, it has got rid of probably 80 to 90% of kicks. That's a definite.
you know, Jonas, the original Tom Chalk, for me personally, has great effect. You know, absolutely, certainly leaving less residue of the reaction of the cueing. In that respect, I think the only thing of concern to me was the softer chalk that you produced, which was is it? Correct me if I'm wrong, but was it the gold?
Gold wrapper. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a slightly soft. Was it a softer chalk? And what was your goal with that chalk? What was the purpose of that chalk?
It was the first chalk we wanted to invent to get the better grip. So it was the next after 2.0. So that's the first chalk when we tried to make a better grip on it because people were complaining that it doesn't grip enough. So we started to develop it, and that's the reason why we invented soft. Now we have the Pyro, which is in 2 colors now, but there's a third one coming. So that's our flagship at the moment. There is 9 main tour players in top 20 using it. Even it's blue now, but it still doesn't leave anything. You never see our player Clint Cuball, even he uses blue chalk. So,
Jonas, what's the difference between the Pyro and the soft?
The formula is better. So soft left little points on the table sometimes. So Pyro doesn't leave anything. So we changed the formula a little bit. So that's the main reason.
Okay.
More invisible.
Yeah.
Do you not think, Jonas, that perhaps maybe making too many types of one product or maybe variations is perhaps maybe unproductive? What do you think?
You mean too many options?
Yeah.
No, but different chalks work differently with the different kind of tips. So that's also they always blame us for miscues, but if you have a good combination, so it works differently. Our chalk doesn't work same way with every tip, you know.
Yeah, I mean, listen. I'm an older fella. You know, I'm not quite as old as Rob, but you know, the thing is that you
There,
know,
if you go to a sports store, there is not only one sneakers, you know.
I
There's
never
not only one pair of sneakers.
you know, you know to myself, I think, you know, it's chalk enough because, you know, we're going to have a show like this on cues and tips
Mhm.
in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be talking about cues and tips and how
Yeah.
important they are, and chalk is probably just as relative, but I think in terms of performance and what you want to get out of it, I mean, is just
But
the
let me make you clear that we always develop, but if we take out of the market the older models, somebody will get pissed off. So we have to keep them on the market because now every day there's thousands of players who want 2.0 chalk. So we can't take it off the market. So we leave it for the option. But always we develop so the newest version should be the best on the market. That's our goal all the time.
But do you not feel that maybe perhaps you can just take it a bit too far? You're going to have too much.
Which sport you have not taken too far? We try to make the best chalk there is, and that's our goal.
You know, do you want to have maybe half a dozen different types of chalk, or do you just want to have like one really good type of chalk? You know, that's the sort of things I'm thinking about. I mean, how much do you want? How far do you want to go? How much is enough? You know,
enough. When how do you say satisfaction? When the development stops, there's no satisfaction. Is it right?
Can I just come in there, Dave and
Yeah,
Jonas?
well,
Can I just say, what I understand as well is when Jonas first invented the Teom chalk, because you got a few miscues, it was with certain tips as well, because there is so many different tips on the market now. Some of them are lead, some of them are made like sausage meat, which are compressed together like Elk Masters and things like this.
Some surfaces go like glass. After using it, it's like glass. The surface, so.
And I use something called a Black Phoenix, which is pretty firm. It's a lead tip. It's quite hard, and the first two Teom chalks wouldn't stick to the tip that much. But I believe soft will do now, or even the Pyro. I'm not sure. But that's probably why they're going to leave all the chalks available, so that when you have a tip fitted to your own choice of tip fitted to your cue, you can then experiment on which chalk will stick better to which tip.
Yep. No. So, Justin, what's your view on this?
Well, I was just thinking about having 6 different heating systems. I'm glad I haven't.
No, if you even go there, I'm never going to speak to you again if you have different heating systems.
No, I think in effect we're all the same. We're always looking for improvement. We're always looking at improving things. I mean, my heating system today doesn't look anything like the heating system I developed 13 years ago. And when I come up with something new, it replaces the old. So it just evolves. And I think it's a bit harder to do with chalk. I mean, and Rob's right. I mean, a player would like the choice. It's like he has that tip where the two Teom chalks don't stick. So he's going to wait for the next one to come out, and hopefully he'll have better luck with that.
Yeah.
But as with the heating system, I mean, I just develop it. The only thing that changes is the type of frame that it goes under, whether it's a Star, Aristocrat, or a Burroughs and Watts. So it's mainly made to the sizes that I'm given by the customer anyway.
Well, I think in terms,
but the principle is always the same.
In terms of chalk, you know, people have choices, you know, and Jonas, you know, guys have got choices to make in terms of what type of chalk they want to have. And I think the only thing that concerns me is the number of choices they have. You know, if they want to choose like a hard chalk or a soft chalk, or any other different type of chalk, it becomes the more the options, the more confusing.
No, but like I told before, that the players who have started to use our first editions, they don't want to change. So we have to keep them on the market. But of course, the best performance comes with our newest model always. So if there is a chance to have a green pyro someday on the market, I would buy that if I was a snooker player. And I used to be. So
ultimately, at the end of the day, it depends on the player. And I think there's going to be many, many professionals who have already tried the chalk and who currently use the chalk also.
Yeah.
I'm not going to mention any names.
So many pros have used our newest model and go back to 2.0, but they want to try if there is a difference. But then they like something about the older model, so they want to go back with that. So
Jonas, you have given away your trade secret now that you're going to create a green pyro.
Oh, really? Maybe it's already created.
Yeah, you must send me one if you do. I want to try it.
All right, you got it, man.
I think 5 years ago, it was unthinkable to use anything else other than triangle.
Yeah.
I mean,
true.
I've been playing snooker for over 30 years. I've never used anything else.
Yeah, it was 99.9%.
What's quite interesting to me is that over the years, the tips have improved and you can get different grades, soft, medium, hard, extra hard now. But the chalk hasn't really gone anywhere until Jonas came on the scene. And now I'm not one to criticize anyone, but it's like I said before, the first one I didn't rate at all, and I'm honest about that. But the soft one now is pretty good, and hopefully
there is a choice.
Hopefully I'll be able to try the pyro shortly as well when my table goes up. So
same with the tips, wasn't it? I mean, all we used to have was elk and blue diamond, and now there's like 10, 12, 20 different tips.
But the good thing about it is that because it's so fine, there's less chance of it sticking to the cloth. But especially when there's a heating system there as well, every little thing is adding to the table to stop and prevent kicks, big bounces, and hopefully Jonas will keep creating more and it'll get even better and better.
Thanks, guys.
You know what, Jonas, the success of the chalk has been phenomenal and very, very popular.
Thank you, all pro players. I have to say thank you for all pro players also supporting us. So it's been, we are very happy about it. So.
Well, it's not just that. Your promotional stuff has been very good too. You've supported players, you've supported clubs also.
Yeah,
I think that's a great thing. And I think any
and
business,
all of our owners are some level of players also. So that's why also we try to work as a player, because we are Mika is a world champion, Tony is a decent level, Ali is like a amateur player. I used to be a snooker player and a pool player, so it's a good combination we have also in the company.
Listen, Jonas, don't get ahead of yourself. None of us would win any of my proms, okay? Justin, I'm not just speaking for the Justin and Rob are actually half decent snooker players, but they're actually a bit younger. they wouldn't even beat me, because I'm too good. I've actually got to the semi-finals of one of my proms.
Well done.
But
you can't beat a good tournament organizer.
It's a challenge. The guys want to come down and play. That's okay. Justin want to come down and play. That's okay. Rob wants to come along. Personally, I think Rob should just stick to table fitting. Do that. He's been great.
Watch his space.
Listen, we're going to wrap this up. All right, because we went on very, very long, but I think we've covered a good ground and we've given a lot of input, a lot of information out there to the viewers. And Jonas, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. It was nice to listen also about the tables and
Justin.
Never knew that before.
Justin, you're a great kid.
No, thank you for having me on, and I just want to say a quick thank you to all the players, table fitters, clubs, thank you for all the support. It's been overwhelming, absolutely awesome this year.
Rob,
Thank you.
Rob, thanks for coming on also. You're a
My
great.
pleasure, Dave. My pleasure. I've tried to answer all the questions what came up on the chat box, and I did answer Amanda Well-Lomas. She has commented saying she isn't being heard, but I did answer her earlier on. She obviously wasn't listening. But thank you very much for having me on, and it's been lovely speaking to you all. Any queries, any questions about table fitting, guys, just you know where I am.
Rob, you're a great table fitter, and I know this because you've told me many times.
All right, guys. Good Christmas
All
for
right, guys.
everybody.
Cheers, guys.
So thanks for
Cheers,
joining
guys.
us.
Have a
Bye-bye.
good Christmas, everyone.
We'll be
You
speaking
too, mate.
a couple of
You too.
weeks. We'll be talking about cues and tips. All right, completely different subject. We might have some of these guys back on again. That's if I can put up with it.